But yeah, hi, I'm Karian. Yeah, this is Andre. So we're kind of the Ayoa team. We're really excited to kind of show you around Ayoa today. But yeah, I don't really have much more to say. I think Andre is going to say a lot more fun stuff than me. But yes, over to you, Andre.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, so I'm just gonna share my screen and then we can kind of jump in. So let me just do that now. Please let me know when this is on, just so I can.
Yep, I can see it now.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so Ayoa is really visual, and it's we've created this ecosystem that allows you to manage your ideas, work on mind maps such as this one, which are really colorful, and also manage your tasks as well. And for us, it's all about the flexibility and all about that freedom of choice. So, for example, when you're talking about 100 people, 100 students in the same classroom, everybody's going to think differently. So for us, it's about offering that freedom of choice in terms of the views they're working in and how they're actually working on ideas and how they're managing their to-dos. At the same time, we've tried to really simplify the tool and put the spotlight on the actual on the actual work, on the actual creation, on the actual creativity, and allow people to just really be free with that. And for example, with my maps, you have things such as the ability to draw and create these beautiful visual maps that obviously really help, especially for students that may prefer that piece of paper feeling and not that rigid style. But if they do prefer that, we also have that option as well. Now, just to kind of jump into a typical flow, because obviously we don't have a lot of time available. I can walk you through the creation of a mind map, how we can kind of customize it, and then how we can also manage some tasks, set up some actual goals, turn those ideas into action, and then also play around with the AI as well, which is really awesome and really useful for learning. If there are any burning questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm gonna um, I'm gonna check the chat and answer them. Otherwise, if you have some like really tricky ones, you can leave them for the end, whatever your preference is. So let's start by creating a mind map and looking at that flow. So if I go to the create new button, this is my homepage in here. I have a couple of things here. So I can either select a mind map or a whiteboard, which is another resource that we have in Ayoa that allows you to drop ideas in on a blank canvas and just manage your projects that way, or a task board, which obviously allows us to take care of the tasks. But let's go with a mind map for now. And in here, you're going to see we have a couple of options. We also have AI in here and a library of templates. These are awesome for students and learners, but let's go with the blank mind map for now. So for example, we can do something like an essay plan, and we can click on create. Now we're going to start off by picking a central idea image. And if I click on create, I have my central idea image in here. Now, if I double click on the actual text, I get this menu, and then I can just start customizing the text a bit. I can change the fonts from here. The default one is Open Sans, which is obviously a neurodiverse friendly font, but you can select a different one if you want to. You can change the size of the text, make it bold, italic, and just click on done. Now, as I said, we've tried to really like simplify the tool. So if you take a look, if I zoom out in here, we have a lot of white space to work with and a couple of buttons there. And there's not a lot going on. So I will walk, excuse me, I will walk you through all of these. So we can obviously right now start drawing branches and develop our ideas. If we go to the top left side, I have this branch draw tool in here, which is basically our branch selector menu, as we like to call it. And from this menu, we get to select all of the styles of the actual branches. So we can either do a box branch, and again, for us, it is about that flexibility, right? So in this view, I can combine all of these styles together. So you can draw a branch by going on this plus button and just dragging and dropping, or just clicking on it. And then you could just type in the idea there, the branch. The branches can be resized, these box ones, and I can go in and I can select a different style of branch. This one, for example, doesn't have a box, and you will notice that with every branch that we add is gonna have a different color. Now, obviously, super important when it comes to learning, because you have that visual variation and that visual feedback. And students can also draw branches, like I said. So, for example, if I draw one over on this side, these squiggly lines could be really useful when it comes to just building really visual maps. So you just type in the name there, and branches can be also moved around, so they're not obviously locked in place. And if you want to move quickly on the map, you can do so by pressing on tab, for example, for adding a child idea to an idea you've already added, just like this. And I'm just going to name this idea for the sake of time. And then I can press on enter to quickly add a different one, or a sibling branch right underneath the one that I've just made. So if students want to move like really quickly and just quickly drop their ideas in, they can do so with the keyboard shortcuts. And then the branches could be just moved around if you want to, just like this. And now let's take, I know this is a pretty simple structure for a mind map, but let's take a look at the options that we have for actually customizing it. So I can click on a branch in here, and then I can go to edit format. And from this menu, again, I can change the font if I want to. I can change the shape of the actual box. I can change the color of it. So we often use color to convey meaning. Obviously, when it comes to learning, this is super useful. This could mean, for example, that the introduction is done if you mark it as green. And also in terms of the visual feedback and in terms of just making it more visual, you can add images. So for example, if I go to this plus button, I can add either like a royalty-free image directly from Unsplash. So any images that you will find here are free to use. So you can select one from here, and then we kind of have this layout menu that we can use to crop our image, and then just drop it onto the branch, just like this. And then kind of resize the branch. And if I go to edit image, I can change the position of the image and even set it as a cover and hide the text if I want to. Now, on top of that, students can obviously upload their own image or generate a unique one using AI. So that's pretty cool, because when it comes to creating actually original work and original presentations, they can make use of that and make some like really cool stuff. So for example, if I go to AI, the way it works is I need to select the style from this drop down, and it's you can select a crayon one, like an oil painting. I usually do like oil painting for the demos, because being AI, sometimes you get like super crazy weird results, but we could do something like sunny day in London, for example. I don't know if anyone's in London right now, but let's try this. And the AI will basically do the magic in the back, create this unique image for us that we can then use and export and take somewhere else.
I can tell you it's definitely not sunny in London.
Yeah, I mean, there we go. That's why we have AI, right? Like, to help us out with that. But yeah, so basically we get to use that image in here. It's going to load it up. There we go. And yeah, you can obviously get really complex with this and just like customize it a bit more. Just because I'm aware of the time, let's take a look at how you can actually add content and just populate the map with like notes and documents and stuff like that. Now, first and foremost, obviously Ayoa is super collaborative. So whenever a student is working on or on a map like this, they can instantly go to the share menu from here, and they can share this with people, with their colleagues, with a teacher, somebody that already has an AO account, and give some permissions from here, such as like read only, default, or admin permission. Or if they want to, they can actually make the map public, turn on some of these permissions in here, and then set a password as well, copy this board link, and then this my map can then be shared with people that don't have an AO account. So that's great for just collaborating quickly, because then the people that get the my map don't really need to go through that sign up process. So that's available in there. And once they have some people added in, they can actually have conversations on each of these branches. Now we obviously have the chat function on the left side in here of the screen, but if I go on a branch, I can then go to the comments button in here. The side panel will open, and now I can basically add people and just start having a conversation in here. So this is a full-blown chat function. You can add emojis, images, links, um, anything. It's a full-blown chat function, and this really helps because then it keeps the map clean, but then again it shows us the speech bubble indicating that there is a conversation going on. So you can imagine 10 students grouped in on a my map, working with each of them working on some ideas, and then they would have conversations on those branches. Now, in terms of adding content to the actual map, we can, for example, select the introduction branch, and we can go to notes option at the top right, and the side panel will open, and in here we can add a lot of text, and essentially just create mini documents directly in here. Super useful for when it comes to especially essay planning, for example, because students might have a couple of ideas, and then they could just throw them in here and obviously keep the map clean. I'm just trying to format the text in here just a bit, so you can play around with the font size in here. You can also add images, insert links, insert tables as well. So create like mini documents, and then you will have you will be able to see that mini document displayed as a thumbnail over on that icon in there. If I click on it, I'm gonna go back to the side panel. Now, furthermore, we have attachments in here. So from here, I can upload my own files from computer, Dropbox, or Google Drive. I can insert a link in here. Super useful for adding resources, saving them here. And students can also record voice notes. So that's pretty cool because they can record a podcast, a lecture, a webinar like this, for example. They can record it in here, or some quick ideas they have, and then just stop the recording, and then they can save the recording in here and just store it like that. Now, when it comes to adding content, you can obviously do that, but then you can dive deeper into just customizing the map. So let's take a look at how you can do that. From the bottom left side, we have this button in here. So from here, we have a couple of more options. We can turn on the dark mode, for example. We can play around with the branch thickness from here, change the way the branches look. Set the background color to a pale color, for example, pale yellow, or any shade of color we want. Obviously, super useful for dyslexic students who just struggle with that visual noise. And this is where the flexibility comes into play, because, for example, if I don't like the squiggly lines anymore, I could just go in and change the style to the speed map view, which is basically kind of similar, but it only has these box branches in here. And this also has a style option called Dyslexia View that can be turned on just like that, setting the background to a pale yellow and just kind of toning it down and making it easier on the eyes. Now, furthermore, we have the radio map view, which is similar to a pie chart, and it's got these cool spinning animations, and you can add ideas just like that. And it also has this focusing function, which basically allows the students to focus on a particular part of the actual map, and then without being overwhelmed by the rest of the content, and then they can return back to the central idea. to the full map, just like this. My Zoom is sometimes going crazy with the trackpad. There we go. So last but not least, in terms of the views, we have these capture maps, which are kind of weird when it comes to just your typical classic mind map. But these are super useful because they allow the students and teachers to add ideas quickly on the go, without that anxiety of having to actually structure them on a map. Because obviously mind maps are really structured, but sometimes you just need to add ideas quickly on the fly. So this is something they could use for that. And then, for example, they could connect these ideas in here, make those connections just like that, from dragging and dropping from that plus button. And then they could just go back to the speed map view, for example, and then all of those ideas are going to be saved in there. So everything is in sync. The views offered that, just that different look in terms of the project. And so from here, for example, if students want to present their work, if a teacher builds a lesson plan and they want to present it to the students, they can use this present tool to create a presentation basically from all of the branches, from all of the content, and then they can start presenting just like that, one by one, and just present all of their different ideas. And also in a full screen mode using the keyboard arrows. So this is pretty cool in terms of just presenting the work. Now, the mind map can be exported as an image, a PDF, a Word document containing every note, everything that you add in here. The table that we've added, for example, is going to be in there, with multiple styles in here, a dyslexia-friendly style as well, which is really useful. And so from here, students can also go in and change the entire view of the actual map, for example, to an outline view, which is really awesome. We've just launched this kind of silently. We're going to do like big announcements pretty soon, but this is exciting for us because it allows us to offer that linear view. So if you, for example, if you want to work on your ideas that way, you could just go to like a document view, for example, and then just work work on ideas in here, kind of like a document without having those branches. And then you could just go back to the mind map from here. And this is super useful because you can drop ideas in there, drop images, and just create documents like that. Now, in terms of the tasks, students can also add tasks directly in here and just connect them to the actual branches, which is awesome. And I'm just gonna do a quick one here. For example, I could write write the introduction task and a category for that. And I'm just double clicking here and creating tasks. And I can click on this task. And in here, what I can do is I can update the progress and just have full control over the settings. I'm going to show that in a sec. But what you can do is you can actually drag and drop this and link this to your actual branch. So students can view the ideas they have in the map with the tasks as well. Now, if I go to a task board, I'm just going to do that here. This is a full-blown task board with a lot of different tasks in here. This is a Kanban board. This is the view for it. In here, for example, let's pick this task. As I said, the progress of the task can be updated manually. It can be taken to 100%. Students can set start dates and due dates directly from here with specific times, and they can add as many reminders as they want. Obviously, super useful for making sure nothing really gets lost. For students that may struggle with ADHD, this is super useful. We also have an integration with Google Calendar, so everything can be sent there. Task boards can be synchronized in Google Calendar, and then they can just manage the tasks there. They can assign people easily from here, just like that, and then everybody's going to get a notification. Everybody's able to collaborate. They can also break down the task into subtasks, just like we have in here with like checklists, just to kind of make it less overwhelming. And they can also use the filter bar to just filter by anything really and just make it less overwhelming and easier to focus on specifically what they need. Now, obviously, the views can be changed at any point. Like I said, for example, we have this canvas view, which has these bubbles in here, and the big circles are categories for the tasks. And students can just view the tasks this way. And this is my favorite one, because it's like super visual, super colorful. And if somebody doesn't really prefer that list style, they could just use this. And on top of that, we have the Gantt timeline as well, which allows students to just drop the tasks and lay down the tasks into specific time frames, the timelines, and just manage their work that way. Now, last but not least, because I'm aware we're nearing the end, let's take a look at the AI and what it can do. For us, I'm sure everybody here is familiar with like ChatGPT, and there are a lot of concerns when it comes to like plagiarism and just, that dystopian future of us being controlled by the AI. But for us, it's all about treating the AI as an assistant, and using it in a smart and safe way, rather than just banning it completely, or just copying and pasting everything. So for example, if I do an essay about the history of England, right, let's say I'm working on something like this, or just like the history of England, right, I can go in here. I can actually tailor the AI to my specific needs with these settings. So for example, if I want some clear and concise sentences, I can do that. If I want some simplified language, I can do that. And also type in a special interest if I want analogies based on this. And basically from here, I'm just going to get rid of those for a sec. If I click on create, we're going to get a full-blown mind map that's made from scratch with AI. It's going to pull in a lot of information. And think of it this way: it's like shortening the amount of time the students need to like open up like 100 different Google tabs, and just getting rid of that chaos and just putting it all in the same place for them to start, and taking away that blank page syndrome, because it's obviously so overwhelming when it comes to just like starting a big project. And this can help with that. It's about offering a foundation for students to start with, and also teachers as well. So for example, we have this cute little mind map in here, right? So we have some ideas about like the history of England, talking about the ancient England, medieval, early modern England as well. And for example, in here we have these notes icon, as you can see. If I click on them now, in here we actually have some more content that the AI has provided us with. So for example, this talks about the ancient England. This talks about the Roman conquest. Um, so everything is, the branches are looking clean, but the content is within the notes. Now, obviously, starting with this is definitely way easier when it comes to just processing that information instead of just browsing through so many different Google tabs. And they have full control from here, so you could just go in and edit the content, and also call the AI for more ideas, even questions, based on the topics, in case you're stuck. And this is really cool because again, it allows us to develop that thought process even more, with us being in full control rather than the AI. And last but not least, the last thing I want to show you is the text summary, which is really awesome. So this, for example, if I type in here something like history of England, let's say we're studying, we're no offense to anyone here, but like I've never really liked the huge PDFs filled with text, like really tough to process. I've always been a visual learner, so this really helps with that, because you can paste stuff in. You can set a title in here, and then you can click on create AI summary, and this will basically summarize everything and turn it into a visual map with the key topics. So imagine how easy that is for a student struggling to process information, a lot of linear text. Imagine how easy that makes learning, right? Because now they have this this map to work with instead of just a lot of plain text. And you can, in the future, you're going to be able to upload documents in here and just transform those into maps, and it's just going to be really, really crazy what it can do. So there we go. We have this beautiful mapping here. And again, if I click on an actual branch in here, I have more content in the note. And when we compare this, for example, to this text, like which one is easier to process. So it's all about like offering that help and like truly helping the students and also the teachers as well, processing information and creating a personalized learning journey rather than just the chaotic, just browsing through pages and everything. So yeah, I hope it wasn't too. I'm aware it was like a fast-paced demonstration, but yeah, I'm just aware of the time. So let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Andrea. I thought that was absolutely brilliant, actually. I really love the way it's so visual and it's so clear. I've actually got a question. You talked about being able to download it as a Word document. So
Yeah.
what does it look like when you do that?
Yeah, so let's try it out now. So I can go to the export option. I've just exported it here.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would need to actually, yeah, so this opened up in my on my Mac, so this is not actually shared in here. Just hang on a sec. Can I open it up in my browser? Apparently not. Okay.
That's okay. I was just wondering if it kind of sets it out like a sort of a blueprint for an essay so that the student
Yeah,
can use that as a basis
exactly.
for writing.
Let me just share my window of the actual document so you can see that now. You should see it now.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is it's set out the basically the outline with all of the notes, all of the text. Now, we can go in here and just modify it and then just work with that.
Yeah. Oh, I can see how that'd be so useful.
Yeah, and with the new, let me just share the main window again with Ayoa. With the new outline modes and the new document view that we have in here. So for example, if I go in here, let's say, I'm just gonna grab an image from here, just gonna take a screenshot. I can then drag that here. Let me just do that again. It dropped it. There we go. So whenever you're working on a document like this in this document view, it's really beautiful what it can do in terms of just the export for the PDF. For example, like the dyslexia friendly one, you can include the images as well, and it's going to format it a bit. And then you can imagine if a student has added like a lot of content and just pasted a lot of like text, different resources in, when they open it up just like this, it's a different experience in terms of just that document view, and it's prettier than just some quick notes.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah,
That's really good. Thank you.
no worries.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Not at this time. Okay. Well, I'm mindful of the time. We have literally, oh, yes, there is.
Yeah, what is the price for schools? I believe Carrie Ann could answer that a bit better than I can.
Yeah, so it just depends really. We've got lots of different pricing discounts. It depends how many licenses you've got. It depends what license you'd like, because we can do licenses with AI and without AI. But what I can really recommend is if I mean, I could probably send you an email today, and then you can kind of send the information round. You can tell me how much licenses you're looking at, and then I can get a bespoke pricing for you, or I can hand you over to our sales director, who can then assist you further with that.
Carrie Ann, perhaps if you pop your email just into the chat, so someone that needs it can just copy that.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea. I'll probably send you over to Chris. Is really good at pricing and he knows all that kind of stuff. So then I can kind of give you a more confirmed pricing other than just pulling it out of the hat. Brill. Any more questions? Or if Edison, you can send me your put your email in the comments, then I can send you an email after this. Or if you'd prefer, you can just go on our website and go through our contact form, or just contact support@ayoa.com with all kind of the information you have, and then we'll pick it up as well.
Fabulous.
Oh, brill. Okay, great. So I will send you an email, and then we can kind of discuss things further after this.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for that, Andre and Kerry-Ann. That was really, really informative and really interesting. Thank you. So I'll
Thank you, everyone.
close down the meeting now. Thank you again.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.